And of course, in studio, we do have Victor Maina. He is a software developer and also tech enthusiast. Victor, good morning.
Good morning, Miriam. Hi.
I'm good. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm well.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I know we want to talk about coding, but before we get into coding, you say you are a software developer.
Yeah.
And when Victor walked into the studio, he just started noticing things in our studio and started saying our camera is a PTC, right? And started asking all those technical questions. And I'm thinking, yes, like just punde si punde.
Gafla bin vu.
He's noticed our control room, right? You're very observant.
Thank you.
Niyo enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
It's enthusiasm.
Hiyo ndio iko kwa damu.
How did you get into all this? How did you get into tech?
So I've always had a passion for tech since I was a very young age.
Yeah.
My first real introduction was like back in 2006. We used to have this old family computer at home, and the only usable software on that computer used to be an app called CorelDRAW. And for those who don't know, CorelDRAW is an app for artists for like making graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when I was really young, I used to mess around with CorelDRAW a lot, and like Microsoft PowerPoint and Word, trying to like make cool graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I was around 14, I got into video production and animation. And while I was doing animation, someone introduced me to a type of programming in animation called effect scripts. So there's an app called After Effects. It's an app that you use to make graphics and stuff, and you can write some code to make your graphic respond in really interesting ways. And that's the first time I realized, okay, I can open up a text file, type in some things, and make my computer do things, right? It felt like a superpower at that point. So then I started getting into building websites and building applications, web applications, and server applications and stuff like that. So that's really how it began for me.
And you see, you were 14 years of age at this moment.
Yeah, when I first got like my first proper introduction to programming, I was around 14. Yeah.
How was the setup at home for you to be able to even be exposed to all this and want to try it out?
So I grew up in like a lot of church environments. And so what would happen is I ended up running a lot of like tech departments in church. So that's why I'm able to notice things like control rooms and PTC cameras and mixing boards and stuff like that. So I had a lot of access to church computers and church gear at the time. And when I got into programming, a curious 14-year-old who just realized he gained this new superpower by typing stuff into a computer, I started doing everything I possibly could. I started realizing, oh my gosh, I can access the local Wi-Fi network and see all of the devices listed on there. It was mad, right? So that's how it began.
So that's fascinating to you.
It's just endless fascination.
Story ya 2006.
Yeah.
Mtu tayari alikuwa anacheza na hiyo kitumbo mkebe. Hiyo kompyuta hiyo ya zamani. Silikuwa ni kitumbo mkebe. Kama TV za kichogo. Kompyuta zilikuwa hivi. Inakaa ni kama miujiza because watoto wengine sidhani kama hata walikuwa wana access naso.
Yeah, because that's why I asked about your exposure, like the kind of exposure you had at 14 years.
Yeah.
So as you're growing up now, did you realize, no, I want to get into tech and I want to immerse myself into this space?
Absolutely, yeah. Because I found myself in those spaces very often.
Okay.
I think one big advantage I had at the time is I was homeschooled, so it gave me a lot of opportunity to explore extracurricular activities that a lot of people might not have had time or access to do so. And so I was constantly finding myself somewhere in front of a screen, either writing some code, making some, producing some videos, producing some music, stuff like that. So I thought it's always been like, I'd say the passion was driven by the fact that I had access to stuff. And maybe that's not true for most people. Yeah. But still, passion can take you a long way.
When you say you're all constantly on screen, we're in a space where, as parents, we say, no, get away from the phone.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Stay away from that.
Yeah.
Screen time.
Yeah.
See, 1 hour screen time.
Yeah.
What would you tell to a parent who does that with the kids?
Well, I guess I can first start by validating the fear and the concern.
Yeah.
Because screen addiction is a thing, but it's mostly driven by what you're doing on screens.
Yeah.
So things like social media, YouTube, Instagram are honestly really designed to hold someone's attention for obscene amounts of time.
Okay.
And that can be problematic. But there are ways to leverage that use of technology and make it better. For example, there's lots of learning material on YouTube. There's platforms like Khan Academy. I spent endless amounts on Khan Academy as a child. It's a very, very well-designed educational platform. And there's also many platforms designed to teach children programming. There's a very simple programming language for kids called Scratch, right? So if you want to get your child into building stuff, you can look at Scratch. So I think what I would encourage parents to do is to, instead of shutting down the opportunities for their child to learn, they should find ways to leverage that and bring out more curiosity in their children. And there's very many ways to do that.
Yeah. How has the tech space been for you when you first interacted with it at 14 years of age?
Yeah.
And now, just seeing how things have evolved.
Yeah.
How has it been?
It's been very interesting. So when I was around 1920, that's when I started studying programming at an official capacity. I joined a programming school, a boot camp called Moringa School, and that was pre-pandemic. At the time, the industry looked very different. Everyone was hiring as long as you could demonstrate a basic ability to write some code, and then the pandemic hit, right, and things changed afterwards. The way people use technology changed a lot. And by the time the pandemic kind of started waning around 2021, 2022, we started seeing a big recession in the tech industry. So companies started spending less on hiring new talent and laid off lots and lots and lots of engineers and developers and stuff like that. So that introduced a lot of challenges. A lot of developers weren't able to get work. And so most of us have really stuck to freelance gigs. We realize you can leverage those skills to build stuff for other people who aren't necessarily hiring full-time software engineers.
Okay. So you got into software engineering?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know we want to talk about coding. Right now, I hear people are making money through coding.
Yeah.
How does one even start?
Okay. That's a very interesting question. There's some ways to go about it.
Okay.
One very popular way to make money using code is to leverage online gig platforms.
First of all, what is coding?
What is coding?
Okay.
In very simple terms, coding is a way to instruct your computer to do something. Computers are not very intelligent. They are not very smart. They have to be told exactly what to do. Right? So they're not like people. They don't take context.
Yes.
So you have to really, really, really break it down for a computer. And the way we do that is through something called a programming language. So a language is, just like English, Swahili, right? You have maybe a language like JavaScript or something. And that tells the computer in very precise terms, here is some text, put the text here, or here's an animation, this is how you should play the animation, right? So, and there's different kinds of programming languages for different purposes, but it all boils down to, I need the computer to do this, and I need to break down all of the steps in between to make it do that.
Guys.
Uliza.
Hey.
Ask away.
Salim.
Unajua nimengojea hiyo coding nini?
Coding. Ulikuwa una float.
Okay, so Victor.
Yeah.
Nimechoka.
Okay. Let me see if I can make it simpler.
Remember when I said you're speaking to the uninitiated?
Yes.
So you need to break it down.
Yes.
Further.
Yes.
Below.
So let's say you want to bake a cake.
Yes.
Okay. And you've never baked a cake before.
Yes.
So the first thing you're going to look for is a recipe book, right? So let's say I want to make a brownie or a chocolate fudge cake or a forest cake or something like that. I'm going to get a recipe book, and the recipe book is going to have a list of instructions for how to bake the cake. So it's gonna be like, put 2 cups of flour, or this amount of 2 eggs, this amount of sugar, exactly, right? Ingredients. Put in the oven and bake for this long. Right? So that instruction by instruction format is essentially how programming works, right? So you want the computer to bake a cake, so you have to outline all of the instructions for it to do so, because the computer has never baked that cake before, has never done that purpose that you're trying to tell it to do, right? Once it has, maybe it can store those instructions in memory, and that's what we call now a full application. An application is just that, it's a recipe book for your computer to follow those instructions and do what you want it to do. That's pretty much all it is.
Okay, so it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But where can one start? And before I get into how you're actually generating income through coding.
Yes. So there's a number of ways. There's different ways to answer that question. There is a question of how should someone begin learning.
Yes.
And there's a question of how should someone build interest. And those might be there might be two different answers to that question.
Okay. So let's talk about. I want to talk about building interest.
Okay.
Fast. And for this, I want to look at now for those, that there's some of our estimate level learning, like I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start learning this, right?
Yeah.
But then we have curious kids. We have those that are curious.
Yeah.
So how can we build that interest?
So for most people who started programming at a young age,
yes,
the one thing that brought out that curiosity in them is video games, right?
Okay.
Now, for me, I wasn't really much into video games as a kid. I never really played any games, but everyone around me did. And most of the engineers that I do know started playing video games a lot as a kid, right? And so it becomes this thing of, this is really cool. How do they do this, right? How does Fortnite become Fortnite? Right?
Yeah.
And so what a lot of kids will do is maybe the first Google search is going to be like how to make a video game, right? So if we're talking about bringing out interest in kids, video games is one of the best ways to do that. And there's very many different resources that help doing that for kids. I mentioned Scratch as an example.
Yes.
Scratch allows kids to make very simple games here and there. There's also a platform called Godot, Godot, which is a very simple kind of like what you'd call an engine, or it's like a set of tools to make building video games easier, right? And so using tools like those, that can really help kids leverage interest. For those who aren't really interested in video games and such, like myself, then you want to look into things like animation, or you want to look into things like building a website. So like one of the best ways for an adult to gain interest in programming is building a website and putting a button on the page for the first time. Like I can put a button on the page, and when I click it, it's going to do this, right? That kind of creates a spark in most people who are a bit older.
So are you able to teach, let's say somebody like Salim, on how to build a website from scratch?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah. It's not as hard as most people think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about beginning. When it comes to learning. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so when it comes to learning how to code, the first thing you really want to master after you've already built a bit of interest is you want to master the basics. And there are three platforms actually, I would really recommend to do that. The first one is called Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp is an online free certification program that has taught hundreds of thousands of developers. A lot of developers who work in like very big companies like Google or Meta or stuff like that. And Free Code Camp really teaches you the basics of web development, of how to build a mobile application and stuff like that, all of the nitty-gritties. The second platform I'd recommend for more of like a deeper practical approach is a platform called the Odin Project. The Odin Project is very, very good for people who also want to get into stuff like web development. And then the last platform I would recommend that's a bit more academic in nature is Khan Academy. So Khan Academy will now teach you the computer science basics.
Yeah.
So like how do you how does cryptography work? How do we secure passwords, right? What is a database, and stuff like that.
Is this just for those who are in the tech space? Is this for tech enthusiasts? Is this for people who went to school and studied?
So, contrary to popular opinion, you don't really need a college degree to get your first job in tech. You don't need a computer science degree to get your first job in tech. I know many developers who studied something completely unrelated or really haven't been to college at all, because programming is a very skill-based career, right? And what really interviewers are looking for is how well are you able to solve problems, right? How well are you able to solve a problem, communicate that problem to other people, and write it down in code that's easy to read and that works.
Okay. How well are you able to solve the problem, communicate it to... Evo, we are speaking to Victor Maina. He is a software developer and a tech enthusiast, and breaking down how he's actually grown in coding. And I think the one thing that we always want to learn, how do I make money in this? We'll come back so that Victor may share how he's doing that. When you say building a project for somebody, I want you to, like, on a day-to-day, if a client reaches out, what are they asking for, and what do you need to build?
Okay, so one of the challenging things when it comes to working with clients is what they're asking for is not the same thing as what they need. So one of the things that one of the skills you need to have as a developer, especially if you're working freelance, is you need to really listen to what the client is saying. You need to listen to the problems that they're highlighting, right? Because at the end of the day, it's up to you to build a solution that works best for them, not necessarily to build a solution that they asked you to build, because they might not really know what that is, especially if they don't have a tech background, right? So you could have multiple meetings, just discussing their business model, right? How do they get clients? Let's say, like, one of the clients I've worked with recently is a client that does shipping and chandler work for ships that enter the port, right? And one of the things that they wanted a way for ships to order things from them. So things like food, groceries, stuff like that in like bulk amounts, right? And so one of the things that I had to learn is I had to gain a bit of domain-specific knowledge. I had to understand, how does their business work, right? How are the clients reaching out? What are the pain points? How do we make those easier? And so when I was building the website for this client, I had to kind of put those problems at the front and center. Initially, they just wanted a brochure website, somewhere where we can just like dump a menu of like all of the things they sell, right? But I realized that's not the problem that they want to solve, because not every order that comes in is necessarily something that's on the menu. And the prices change all the time. So I realized a more effective solution is to build something that makes it easier for ships to reach out to them directly, as opposed to using middlemen. Right? And so that's what I built for her. I built for her something that it's like an online platform with a very simple form, really. And ship chandlers are able to upload their orders and stuff like that, right? Another project I built for a client was I've built applications for kayaks in Mombasa. And so, they want a place to like list all of their vehicles online and stuff like that. And one of the things I was really key to understand is, how do people buy cars from kayaks? Because my initial approach was, okay, we're going to build an online like checkout system. You take the car you want, put it in a cart and stuff. But that wouldn't have worked for them, because that's not how they sell cars. There's a lot of hand-holding that has to happen between the kayak and the client, right? And so what I realized, what I really need to do is to list as many details about the car as I can online and foster communication between the client and the car yard or the car salesperson, right? And the way most of them did all of their communication was through WhatsApp. And so they would, really communicate on WhatsApp, send things like registration numbers and logbook details and all that stuff. And so what I built instead is a place where they can list all of their vehicles, upload images, and a simple link to message them on WhatsApp that links directly to that particular vehicle they're asking about, right?
And how long when you're building a project or when you're building a solution for a client, how long does it take?
It depends. If the project is complex enough, it can take anywhere from weeks to months. So it's a very common saying in the software development industry. Instead of giving specific timelines to things, we just measure things in, is it going to take days Is it going to take weeks? Is it going to take months?
Yes.
Or is it going to take years?
Yeah.
That's a rough, because sometimes you can tell a client, oh, this project, I can knock it down in a month. And then they tell you, oh, by the way, we have to, the website needs to come from this particular server. And you're like, okay, that's something I hadn't taken into consideration before, right? So all of a sudden, what was a month becomes 4 months of work. So it really, really, really depends. The best thing to do is keep those communication channels open, right? And keep talking to the client and aligning expectations, because things change.
Kwa hivyo unasema pesa iko. Lakini kuipata hii pesa ni uwe na subra kwenye haya mambo, karibu niseme mambo yenu.
Mambo yao.
Ni kweli.
Kwa sababu umesema it takes weeks. Hata sio, I was expecting 30 minutes. Lakini ni weeks.
Because they're building something.
Paka mwisho ametaja 4 months.
Yes.
It can take a very long time. Now there are ways to make it easier and faster depending on what kind of website you're building. So like for most websites, you can just take a template online and just modify it kidogo, and that's gonna take you a couple of days.
So when you're looking for the clients, now how do you get your clients? Do you look for them? Do they come to you?
Advertise. What do you do?
So there's a few ways to do that. Obviously word of mouth is best. If you do a good job for someone, there are a lot more likely to tell, oh, by the way, this guy did this for me, and reach out to you. Another, like I mentioned earlier, these gig platforms like Fiverr and Upwork. If you're competitive enough, you can use those to leverage a bit more, side income. By far the most common way though is definitely getting like a full-time job. If you're a developer. But the skills you need to have a full-time job and the skills you need to successfully freelance are not exactly the same. There's overlap, but they're not exactly the same. Because for a full-time job, the person you're selling to is HR and senior management, right? But for freelance, the person you're selling to is someone who has maybe a business or a problem they're trying to solve, and might not have some clients might not have the kind of budget you're looking for. So like you can say, okay, I'm going to build this website for you. It has 10 pages and it's a login and a logout. This is going to cost you 100,000 and it's going to take 3 months to build, right? Some clients will look at that and they're going to think, okay, I don't have 90 to 100,000. Some clients will immediately, like I had one client who immediately took an offer like that because they thought I was going to quote 3 times that amount, right? So it's really about, it's more of understanding the person you're dealing with as opposed to just strictly the technical skills.
Okay, I like that. And now if you look at the tech community, and even in Mombasa, because you've mentioned some of your clients are from within, right? What opportunities are there when we're looking at the tech space? What opportunities are there for software developers, for tech enthusiasts in this region? So there are some opportunities out there. One thing that is very interesting is there's a lot of grants that are being given out for tech companies and tech institutions in East Africa. Right? So for example, maybe Google is going to give a grant of this amount of money to, let's say, 20 organizations, and that grant money is going to allow them to hire engineers and developers and stuff like that. So one thing you could look out for is which companies are giving grants and where are the grants going, and that's where you can offer your value as an engineer or as a developer. Another way to look for those opportunities locally is honestly just market yourself in your circle, right? A lot of people are looking for web and technology services, but they might not be really certain how those services can solve their problem. So your job is to do a bit of sales and marketing, figure out what is this target group's problem, and how do I market my skills in a way that really solves that problem for them, right? I like that. Is there anything we left out?
No, I don't think so.
Because I just want to milk out everything to ensure that we didn't leave out anything. Lastly, you spoke about freelance and then full-time job. What are you?
Right now I'm freelance.
Right
now.
Why?
I'm freelance.
Which one gives more opportunities?
I would say it really depends. the reason I'm doing freelance right now is because I'm working on a larger platform.
Okay.
For Kayads in Mombasa. You can check it out. It's at overdrive.victormaina.com. And the idea is that I can make it a lot easier for Kayads that have high quality websites that solve their specific needs, right? And for me, I think that's a bigger business opportunity and has more financial growth opportunities than just a specific full-time job career, right? That said, I think the most viable path for a lot of people is to look for a full-time job because of stability. It does offer stability. I think it depends on what you're looking for at that point in your life.
All right, where can somebody find you in case they want to use your service?
You can find me at victormaina.com.
Yes.
You can also email me, contact@victormaina.com, and I'm on all social media platforms as the Victor Maina.
Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right.